I will admit this to you guys, I'm actually a little bit nervous for today. Today we are December 28th and I can now confirm positively that I will not be finishing another knit for 2024. So it is now time to sit back, relax, and take a look at everything that I've knit during the year 2024. ...2024 is almost over, and I wouldn't lie to you by saying I am actually nervous for today. I'm actually nervous to reflect on the year I just had. 2024 went by super quick, and I feel like I actually grew a lot as a knitter and even more as a spinner. So today I wanted to take the time and take a little look back at the year I just had here on YouTube with you guys and kind of talk about all the patterns that I've knit up. So I went and I got all the knits that I have, because some of these were gifted and given away, and I thought it would be fun to just go through one by one. I had thought about making a list, kind of like putting them not against each other, but going from best to favorite knit, because I don't think there are any losers here. I don't think there are any bad knits. I think they're all amazing for themselves. But what ended up happening with that, and why I'm not going to go that route, is because it got really hard to put knits up against each other, and it made me feel really anxious because I then had to choose, like I had to give each knit a number, and a lot of these knits are kind of at the same like favorite level, and I wear them a lot. And I think this year is one of the year where I've finished the most like knits I've actually worn, because what happens is usually I'll finish a knit, I'll wear it a couple times, and then there's like a little thing that's off and I just don't go back to it because I wasn't good enough a knitter. Whereas this year, I don't know, I actually wear these like all the time. However, today's knit that I'm wearing, the Novice cardigan by Petite Knit, it was done in 2023 November, so it's not part of this. I just wanted to wear a knit for the video, but since I'm going to be talking about the knits, I didn't want to. Anyways, so let's just hop right in because we have a lot to talk about. So I'm just going to get a sip of water, and I feel like I'm going to need a lot more, maybe even take a break, because we'll see. We'll see how long this takes. I'm already out of breath, but let's hop right in. I also made a Ravelry bundle for myself with my very own knit items. If you're ever curious about what I'm knitting or want to stay more up to date and get an even more, I upload on Ravelry almost real time what I'm casting on, casting off, working on. I like to keep it like a log for myself, and then on Instagram I post pictures, but sometimes I'll keep things hidden, so I'll post them on Ravelry before. Yeah, I don't know. So yeah, if you're ever curious, it's there. And if you don't care or you don't want any spoilers about what I'm currently working on, then just don't look at my personal Ravelry page. That's fine with me. So we're starting off the year, January 2024. I have zero, no knits. For some weird reason, I guess last year I finished this one in November, I finished the Moby sweater in December, and then I had finished, there was another knit I was knitting on. So basically I finished everything in December, so January 2024 was kind of a cast on month for me. I started new projects, I had just gotten my spinning wheel, so I was just dipping my toes into that little world. Yeah, so I have no knits casted off in January. So let's just go right into February. And the very first knit that I finished in February was one that was a very big surprise to me because it just kind of flew off the needles and flew off the spinning wheel. And it is actually my Sophie scarf. So this is mine. It is a kind of really long version of the Sophie scarf. So this was my very first hand spun yarn, and it is from Fiber Goddess. It was virgin wool with viscose, like a mix, and I think it was like 10% 15 or 10% virgin, let me double check. I did not put it. Avocado chickpea salad. Okay, give me a minute. My sister just asked me for a recipe and I'm just gonna send it to her. Okay. Oh my god, I already have it open. And if you're from Quebec and you know Ricardo, you need to try the sweet potato and harissa chickpea bowls with avocado Greek yogurt. So good, so good. But yeah, anyways, let's get back to the knitting. Now, if you're a first time viewer and you have seen the Sophie scarf, you're probably like, Ev, why is your scarf so flipping long? And it is because in the pattern, she does state if you have more yarn than is required, what you can do is weigh the skein, the yarn that you have, knit half of it. Like work up increases till you knit half of it and you have half the yarn left, and then start the decreases then. And I wanted to use up all of my handspun yarn, so I still have a little bit because I ended up at some point was like, this is getting really long and ridiculous. So at some point I did cut it short, but my goal was, yeah, to use up all of my handspun yarn in the scarf so that I didn't, because I didn't have too much. I think I only had like 200 yards and I just wasn't sure what to do with this, so I wanted to put it all in one project. So that's why it is really long. Also, look at the difference in the tips. This one was spun first at the beginning, and this is what is spun last, and that is why, like, it is super skinny and super thick. In the spinning world, they do say keep your very first spin and your very first knit project with your spin, because it'll be fun to look back on, and I love it. I actually really wear this all the time and I get amazing compliments on it. So it's a lovely little minty green color. So funny enough, in February, I guess I was having kind of a scarf moment because I then knit Andrea Mowry's Rad Plaid Cowl, Rad Plaid Cowl, Rad Plaid, and this is what it looks like. So this is a cowl, not a scarf, but it is still like a neck warming piece. I absolutely love this so much. I wear it all the time. I've gotten great compliments on it, and mine does look different because the original pattern calls for a gingham design, and when I selected my yarns, I didn't think this through. I selected the yarns at Knit City, and I did it in order that the white, because I wanted it to be white with green and then the brown be the smallest color. I should have thought of this before, but yeah, I selected my yarn at Knit City, so I didn't knit a swatch. And when I got home, I then casted it on, and I again didn't knit a swatch. And I didn't realize that the yarn colors kind of affected the way the gingham worked. Of course it does. I just wasn't thinking. However, I love the way that this turned out. I think it turned out perfectly. It is so much nicer in person. I know on camera it does look a little bit trippy, but I love the tiny squares that I ended up with of color. This one is a super fun knit. It is like a giant loop oval, and then you twist it at the end before connecting the two ends together. So you knit like a long tube and then you twist it so that when you connect it, one is facing right, one is facing up, one is facing down, so that you end up having like kind of like an infinity scarf moment. However, with this color texture, you can clearly see even on camera where I did the connection of the two. Is it the same on the inside? Yeah. Whatever. In person, it's not as noticeable. But yeah, I love this cowl so much, and it was a really simple knit. I believe you started it with a provisional cast on and then just knit a tube in the round. No decreases, no increases, very mindless knitting, and it's a really fun color work. And if I was to do this again, I would try to get colors to work in the gingham way. I just really wanted it to be more white, and had I picked the brown or the blue as my main color, it would have looked gingham. It's just the yarn quantities and colors that I had selected before casting it on. So, but I love it. I love it. Also, this is why I had no finished knits in January, and it is because I was actively also working on my very first sweater design. So this is a sweater that is still non-existent anywhere. I'm still kind of writing it and figuring it out, and I got really distracted over the holidays with another knit that I desperately wanted to finish. So this one has just been on hold, but this is my everyday knit cardigan knit sweater. And it is a beautiful lavender purple turtleneck with a really thick rib. It is knit in DK weight and it has a mohair with it. So this was 100% alpaca yarn that I picked up from Kensington Prairie Farm, and then I held it with a Drops Kid Silk mohair, and I absolutely love it. So this is the cropped version of the sweater. So at the bottom you have a beautiful thick rib that goes along with the really thick collar rib. It is a 2x2 rib, and then there's the rib on the sleeves that leads to the cuff rib with another little secret hidden rib detail along the side. I love stripes. I love rib knits. Yeah, so this was a knit that I designed myself, that I came up with to kind of, yeah, I wanted it to be rib, like I wanted the main detail to be rib, but I didn't want it to be like fully ribbed, if that makes sense. So hopefully I can get back to this one. I have another one already casted on, and the other one I'm planning to make it the full length sweater to get an idea of what that would look like, because this one is a cropped sweater. I love crop sweaters, but I also know a lot of people don't really enjoy crop. That's not really their style, and that's totally fine. But I am curious to see what it would look like uncropped. So that is what this is. So that was my, I think the last finished, yeah, so this was the last finished knit of February. And by the way, this is also working with my color palette. I think these three are all along my color palette. So I believe this was when color theory was really trending over on Instagram, and I had done a couple of filters and I figured out that I am a spring. Was it a, like the one with a lot of pastels, not a winter. I know that because those are very harsh, like deep colors, and I tend to be more of like, I think it was a warm spring. Anyways, the one with these colors, this like kind of like teal brown, very light ethereal fairy colors, which I also love. So that is why, because I remember when I picked out this yarn, the farm, Kensington Prairie Farm, this is a color I would never ever gravitate towards had it not been for that trend and that color theory analysis movement. March. Stepping into March, I only have one cast off in March, and it is the Camisole number 4 by My Favorite Things Knitwear. So this is what it looks like. This was the second time I knit this tank top, and this is probably not my most favorite tank top. So the first time I knit it was in a ridiculously loose cotton, and it got ridiculously wide, and I barely ever wore it. I wore it like a couple of times, and then I washed it, and then it never got back. Because it's cotton, it kind of just like, and then it never took back its shape. So I was like, you know what? Instead, I'm going to knit it up in a merino. So this is Sandnes Garn Sunday, and this is one strand of Sandnes Garn Sunday. I, again, don't like this yarn. So I barely ever, I think I've worn this maybe like twice. I just don't like the yarn. This yarn, it's not that there's anything wrong with it, it's just like a personal preference. And I find that because it's like a bunch of little singles all coiled up together to make up the yarn, to make up the skein, my needle kept getting stuck in between. It's a lot of knits and purls, so it snags really easily, and the yarn splits up, and it kind of gives like a weird coiled look that I don't really like. Now this is also why a lot of merinos, I don't knit with them, because they're like that. They're really coiled yarns together, and it just gives a look that I'm not crazy or dying for. Maybe it's the way I knit, the way I wrap around my yarn, that kind of goes against the twist in the yarn, because some yarns are twisted S way and some yarns are twisted Z way, and then when you knit you untwist or retwist a yarn a certain way. So depending on how all of that factors in, it can really change the way you knit, like the way your material ends up. So this was the only knit I casted off in March. Now it is a beautiful pattern, and I've seen it knit by so many people. So many people knit this and wear it, and it looks stunning on them. For me, even though this one is a lot smaller than my other one, it just isn't flattering. And I just don't know if it's because I have a smaller like chest area, or again, I just really don't like this yarn. This knit, I don't wear it. I've knit it, finished it. I've worn it maybe twice, and that's it. So I think that this is just not a pattern for me. Now, I don't want to like unmotivate you from casting this one on, because if you look at the pictures on Ravelry, it looks really pretty on some people. It's just for me a personal preference, a personal opinion, and as I said, it could just be the yarn that I chose again. But yeah, so this was Camisole number 4 by My Favorite Things Knitwear. I have knit other patterns of hers, and I love her patterns, I love her designs, so it's totally not a designer's fault. It is purely a user experience me thing. So yeah. We are quickly going through the year because we are now in April. In April, I finally finished and casted off my very first of the cone saga, and it is the Elisabeth Blouse. So this is my very famous Elisabeth Blouse, knit in 100% baby alpaca, 3 strands from a yarn cone, and I love this one. This is also a color that I would never have picked up. I don't really go for blues too much. So the Elisabeth Blouse, like with the Everyday Knit Sweater, is another one that I basically just chose this color because of the color analysis theory. I would have never gone for this type of blue. I don't really buy blue yarns. I don't really wear blue too much other than on like denim jeans. I don't know, it's just not a color I go for, but when I picked this up at the same time, so these 2 yarns come from the same farm, yeah, they were both in the color theory palette, and I saw the cone, and I was like, this is a sign, so I bought it. That was the whole thought process behind it. I'm trying to get the color right without like a coat hanger. So this is a pattern by Petite Knit, and it is a beautiful stunning knit. I love this one so much. It could just be the yarn, but it's super, super soft. It was a very fun knit. The color looks intimidating, and I was actually a little bit scared to do it, but it really isn't. If you know Judy's Magic Cast On, that's pretty much it. So you just knit the 2 panels, like the collar of the front and the back together. And then if you know double knitting, that's what is worked up along the collar, and then the rest is just like a regular raglan sweater. So once you get the collar and the V-neck situated, which is basically the first part of the pattern, you kind of just do a regular raglan and keep knitting. The sleeves are very simple with a very simple 1x1 rib at the bottom, and then the bottom of the sweater is finished off again with a, whoops, that's the inside. The bottom of the sweater is finished off with a 1x1 rib. So it is just like a very simple, beautiful sweater. Now I'm going to mention this because I did mention this sweater in my December knits. I am pretty sure this cone is no longer available. I have not contacted the farm. Like, I went to the farm in 2022. Yes, I went to the physical farm, and it was for their annual alpaca shearing, and that is where I purchased all of this yarn. I went to the location. Now, they never had these cones on their website, but at the time when I was there, they had a bunch of different cones of different things, and she had mentioned if you email her, she could let you know like what they have in stock and maybe make you a cone and stuff like that, because basically normally they take these cones and then we'll turn it into skeins to sell to you, but I just bought the cone. Now I am pretty sure this cone she doesn't sell this anymore. I don't know what they have in its place. I don't know what other options they have. I would need to go to the farm again. But yeah, because I know every time I talk about the cone, people always ask. PSA though, when I mentioned I was going to get another cone, I meant like get another cone from somewhere else of like a different lace yarn, maybe like a cashmere or an alpaca again or something, so that I can hold the strands together, because this was really fun to work up, really nice to work up, and I love the material it gave. So I'm going to be searching for a new type of cone. That's kind of what I meant, because yeah, I'm pretty sure this cone is no longer available. But don't quote me on it. We just need to contact the farm. Because I have seen lace cones on like Color Mart or like even in yarn shops sometimes, or fiber festivals, there's like lace weight cones, and basically it's just like, I never thought about it before. You could totally buy those cones. There's so much yarn on them and just hold it together. Yeah. It's kind of funny to see back like how much I actually get done, because basically I'm kind of going like one knit a month. I have like months where clearly I knit a lot, and then months like April where I just have one knit, or like next month, May, where all I did was knit the Florence bag, which is empty right now. So it looks a little skinny and flimsy, but it is a beautiful stitch. I knit it with 2 strands of cotton yarn, 100% cotton yarn, and 1 strand of Lillian Pine. It's alpaca. It's like an alpaca mohair. And I didn't put the yarn here. Oh my God, I need to get better at Ravelry. But it was their Surrey alpaca. So it's like a mohair, but it has a lot thicker of a feel to it because alpaca is thicker, and it's so soft, so soft. Now Lillian Pine, I don't know if they still have their shop open, but they are closing up shop, which is sad because their yarns are beautiful. I mean, look at this yellow. The cotton isn't from Lillian Pine. I don't remember where the cotton yarn was from, but just this like beautiful alpaca mohair yellow. I think it was called Limoncello, the color, and it is beautiful and stunning. So this was the first purse bag that I made. This is a pattern by Petite Knit, and this is the lining that I went with on the inside. I hand sewn it, and I even have a video dedicated to this bag because it was quite an adventure to sew this lining. I think this was the very first time I hand sewed a lining for any bag, anything. And I'm actually really happy with it. The zipper is a little bit wonky and off, but it closes really well. It opens really well. It's just a little bit wonky. Did I block this? I might not have ever blocked this, so maybe that'll help. And then for the strap, I just ordered a leather strap off Amazon, and just did I had to do my own holes in the strap, and then I just matched what Petite Knit did for the seam, like the stitch seam to the bag. So yeah, so this is my bag, and I love it. The next one is a beast of a sweater, and I love it so, so much. It is my Cardigan No. 9 by My Favorite Things Knitwear. Now this needs to be washed, but I have been holding back on washing it because I knew I was going to film this and I didn't want to hold up a wet, soggy knit. This cardigan was knit up in Noro Hanui silk, which is 30% silk, and then the rest is Hanui wool, which is a wool from New Zealand. And I absolutely love this cardigan so much. I love the color of the raw, like natural undyed wool with the silk. It is super stunning, and it kind of gives like really interesting like textured. And this looks handmade. This looks homemade. This looks like something your grandma would knit you, and I love it. I even went to Granville Island and I picked up some buttons. I love it. I love it so much. So this is an Aran weight knit. I think I only ended up using 3 skeins of Hanui silk, and I think their skeins run you 330 meters. So in total, that's what, like 990 meters for the whole sweater. So that's that. I didn't do any modifications to this one. I kept it as is, and I wear this all the time, and I'm going to stop holding it up because it makes me look so pale. But yeah, I think that this one is a gem, and I remember being so scared to use up the skein because it was so special and so pretty, and I love it because now I feel like Hanui, at least over on my Instagram, is like blowing up, and I feel like so many more people know about Hanui wool from New Zealand because it's their own type of flock. It's like from New Zealand. It's local to them, and they've come up with this flock of sheep, and their wool is stunning and beautiful. And the black is the pure Hanui wool. Like, they have actual black wool sheep, which is kind of rare. So it's a treasure. And the Cardigan No. 9 is a beautiful, stunning cardigan. I love it. And it was my very first saddle shoulder sweater shirt construction. So that was also really interesting to work up and to learn how that's made. Then in June, I had a couple of smaller knits done. Was June when I went to Italy? Or that was end of June. I went to Italy, but at the beginning of June, my parents visited for a week, and then I don't know, there was like a lot of stuff going on, so I got a few smaller knits done. And the first one that I finished was actually my very first socks of the year. Now, next year, I'm definitely going to be knitting more socks because this year I feel like I casted on so many and never finished them. So next year, finish your socks, Ev. Do it. So these are my socks. I love them. I love the color so much. And these are from Opal yarn sock, which is a beautiful virgin wool with a nylon. And I think this is superwash, but it doesn't feel superwash at all. I really, really love these socks. And every time I wear them, someone's like, your socks are so cute. And I have another one of these dye lots, like these painting inspired socks, but not casted on. And I definitely will. But yeah, so Opal did a collection where they took a bunch of Van Gogh paintings and turned like dyed yarn inspired by that color palette. So this is that. And I love it. I love it so much. These colors just really vibe with me, and they look kind of like old and vintage, but not at the same time. I don't know. I really, really like these socks. So the pattern I went with this one is a super vanilla sock. It's a free pattern on Ravelry, and it's actually the translated version of the Opal sock label because on the inside it's written in German. So I just went and found the translated version. Someone put it on Ravelry. The only thing that's interesting about this sock design is it just tells you to like cast on X amount of stitches, knit till your desired length, knit till your desired length, knit till your desired, like it tells you the steps to do, but it's always like, go to what you feel. So if you've never knit a sock before, I wouldn't recommend this pattern, but if you have knit socks before, the pattern, it's a very nice, simple pattern to follow, and it's free. And then in June, I got very carried away and very inspired by everybody over on Instagram, and I think a couple of you guys did too, because I knit my very first emotional support chicken. I believe I had called her Henrietta. But this is my chicken, and I love her. She's a little wonky. She tilts a little bit that way. So can I just... Yeah, she has a little tilt that way. But this is Henrietta, and I love her so much. She is a staple decoration in my house, and she is knit up with just some leftover yarns that I had from past projects. And I basically... it's a worsted weight. So I held 2 different strands for the tail, I think 3 different strands for the blue. The white is a worsted weight yarn, so I just held it single. And like it was kind of like a mix and match of colors. That's why her beak is like, I think there's even pink in here. It's pink, orange, and yellow. It was just the colors I had to achieve that weight, and I am tempted to make another one. I will probably make another one. I have more worsted weight yarn left over that would make a lovely chicken, so I might make a second one. But yeah, this was just a really fun project to knit up, and if you guys haven't made your own chicken, I highly recommend you do. It's a really fun knit, and it's super cute, and it's a good kind of home statement piece, and everybody loves it and talks about it. So, and the chicken is a pattern by Annette Corsino over on Ravelry. Yeah, and then I guess we can kind of just skip into August because according to my Ravelry, that is when I next uploaded. And the first one, I believe that I thought that I had finished this in, okay, so on Ravelry it says that this was done in August, but I finished it in London. Maybe I mean like by the time I sewed the straps and weaved in the ends, I finished it in August. Or maybe I just lied. I don't know, but I finished it in London. But anyways, this is my everyday camisole, and it is knit in a Turkish yarn. I believe this was Yarn Art Summer, which is a cotton and silk blend. And this is just a black, very black tank top. This was inspired by a couple different patterns that I saw people wearing over the summer, and I casted it on in Italy, and yeah, I finished it in London in my week trip, my crazy week trip, because I was only there for like 7 days, which was bonkers and insane. But yeah, so it's hard to see right now, But this is what it looks like, and this was probably the knit that I wore the most in Turkey when I went there for September. And it is just inspired by, yeah, patterns that I saw over on Ravelry and Instagram. People were wearing a lot of these this summer. So I wanted to cast my own up, and I didn't want to buy a pattern necessarily. So it's just a very simple tank top. And the yarn feels amazing, and this is what the skein looks like. You don't see the shine. I was actually worried that you would see the shine, but it ended up just being like, yeah, you don't see that like shiny plasticky look that this skein originally has, which is amazing because I didn't want it to look like plasticky, you know, or acrylic-y. Right after that one, as a speed knitting, I quickly bought yarn and knit the lime skirt. Now this was packed away in my summer like suitcase. I have a summer bin with all my summer clothing, so these were packed away in there, so that's why it's kind of like a little frimpy and just like not as pretty. But I knit the lime skirt by Le Purl, and I knit it in Sandnes Garn Lin, which is 53% cotton, 33% rayon, and then 14% linen flax. So that is what this is, and I had knit it till about right above my ankle. So this is a really, really long skirt, and I was super amazed that I actually finished it. I love the green, I love the fit, I love the skirt. I actually wore this quite a lot on my summer vacation in Turkey. It is a beautiful stitch, and it was so fun to knit up. I'm sorry if it looks a little crimply, and like it's the silk probably, or the flax or something, the linen. This was folded up in my summer knits because I'm not wearing this in winter. Along with this though, I did knit this little tank top, part of a video just to see if I could. You can clearly see here the linen is all fripou, or all like a froissé. Basically, you need an iron to like, you know, get all the creases out. What I think I'm gonna do, so I had left here with this at right above my ankle, or like a little bit above my ankle. And I was told that it would grow in length as I wore it. That didn't happen, and I think it's because I used a much thicker yarn. So I ended up changing the like stitch count in the round, and I did some slight modifications because my gauge was completely different. But basically, as long as your waist measures accurately, the length, like there's no increases, there's no decreases in the whole knit. So it's just knit a long, super long tube till you're very happy with it, and then just do the bind off. So I was expecting this to grow a lot as I wore it on the trip. That didn't happen. And not gonna lie, I kind of would want it a little bit longer. And this tank top, I'm not crazy about it. So I think what I'm gonna do is I'm actually gonna unravel this, not count this as a finished knit, even though it is a finished like summer tank top. I think I'm just gonna unravel it and add the yarn into the skirt, get it to the proper length I want, and then I don't know what I'm gonna do with the leftover yarn. Maybe I can make myself a little purse, a little bag, a little project bag, because I would have enough probably, or something of that sort, just something fun that I can wear with it, a little headband. It really depends how much yarn I have left. I think I might even have a little bit of a skein somewhere. I'm gonna be unraveling this, and I want to make the skirt even longer. So that was the lime skirt knit in Lin by Le Purl. Lots of la 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 la. So in August, I kept myself very busy because I was gonna go to Turkey, and I didn't want to show up empty-handed. I wanted to give some little hand knit gifts. So I casted on 3 different knits. I managed to only do 3 in the month, and I don't have them with me, so I'm gonna put some pictures. But the first one is this super cute knit drawstring bag by Purl Soho, and this is what it looks like. It was knit in the same yarn as my Camisole that I made, the black one, but it's simply a different color. And that was a really super fun knit. It's a free pattern, and honestly, I think I used a yarn weight higher, so I just adjusted my stitches accordingly, and then I made it smaller because I think the bag asks you to knit 12 inches. I think I did 8 or 9 inches before doing the seam at the bottom, just for preferences and yeah, personal preferences. Then I knit the Technicolor Purse by Petite Knit. Now this is one I'm definitely gonna redo, make another one for myself. I love this bag so much. The knit was super easy, super fun. She has a Technicolor bag as well, like a tote bag, and then I think there's the Technicolor pillow too, which I will do at some point. Yeah, because the stitch is super fun. It's kind of like a seed stitch. It's called a slip stitch, and I don't know, it just looks super beautiful. I love it, and I'm definitely gonna make another one. And then I'm just going through these quickly because I don't have anything to show you guys, but then I made the Age of Brass and Steam shawl or cowl. No, I made the kerchief. So it's a smaller little neck cowl scarf, and I made it in the Himalayan bamboo, which was a mix of bamboo and cotton yarn, and this yarn is super soft. This yarn is super beautiful. I've used this yarn in tank tops and shorts before, and I absolutely love this yarn. And with this one, funny enough, I had such a pleasure knitting it that I accidentally increased like an extra repeat round so that it ended up being kind of like a shawl instead of a kerchief, because I didn't even notice. I just kept on knitting, and yeah, I ended up with like a really long wide triangle. So it was kind of like in between the shawl and the kerchief in measurements. Okay, well, it is now, is it snowing? Okay, so it's either snowing, it's either raining, the sun is out. Hopefully, again, this isn't too, I don't know what to do right now. We're just gonna keep, oh my god, it's getting brighter. Okay, wait 1 second. I just closed part of my curtain, so hopefully this isn't too weird lighting wise. But yeah, let's continue. So clearly I'm really bad at this because I just realized I missed 2 different patterns. So the first one is I think I finished this at the exact same time, so around February, as the purple sweater, and it is my everyday knit cardigan. So this is what it looks like. This is another pattern that I said I would come out with, and I got so distracted by the everyday knit sweater that this one, I've written it, but I've never looked back on it since then, because I've been trying to get that one out. I just didn't want to have 2 patterns going and writing and testing at the same time. So this one has been put on hold for a while. And it is my very first cardigan design. And this is knit up in Koigu yarns. This was their Gotland and Corriedale. And I love the color choice of this yarn. It's like a very gray, Gotlandy, it's like a very muted chalky gray, but then the pastels are beautiful. It's like a little word vomit, color vomit moment of rainbow, but like ever so slight rainbow. I don't know, it's like a shy rainbow, but it's still a rainbow nonetheless, and the gray really kind of unifies that. I don't know, it just doesn't look super pastel and like really rainbow. So I really like that. That's all I'm trying to say. And it is a super cute cardigan with 2 lovely little pockets. And then these on the front are actual, I'm just gonna open up the button band. But essentially what I had done is, now I've learned, now this one I'm also gonna have to go back and fix because this has actual snap buttons instead of like buttons with buttonholes. So there's like little metal snappy parts. And then on the inside, there's like another snappy button. Now the reason why I say I'm gonna have to go back on this one is to actually sew in a lining and then reattach the button. I even got the little tools to like press the button because you need like a specific, it's kind of like scissors, but it kind of pushes the 2 pieces together so that you can have snap buttons. I don't know what that tool is called. I have one. But essentially what I'm trying to say is I need to go get a lining to put on the inside, because right now what is happening is I didn't know this beforehand. And I guess you learn from experience. These little trinkets right here on this side, they just at some point pop out because they're not, like the yarn moves around and this is too small of a surface. So if I had a lining to properly hold it in place. It would make the button band a little bit bulkier, but my buttons would be much more secure. So that is one thing I am going to go back and fix on this cardigan. But the rest, I absolutely love this cardigan so much, especially with these very cute little pockets. And if I remember correctly, I had made them just big enough to hold my phone when I'm wearing it. It's a little snug, a little tight, but it holds my phone. Even though I have like a Samsung Ultra, like this phone is huge, it holds my phone. So yeah. Oh, fiber in my mouth. So the next knit, I also finished it in July, which is why July seemed to be such a short knit month for some weird reason. And it is actually my Felice Blouse by Yuka Tomioka. And I absolutely love this blouse. I think this was one of my accomplishments of the year. Now it's very hard to see, but it is a super dainty little lace knit moment. It is 2 strands of mohair held together, and I did this in Tofino knit. Did I do this in Tofino knit? And I knit this in Tofino knit's mermaid mohair, and it is so soft. So soft. I think this one was knitting for Olive, and the Tofino Knit Company mohair is softer. Yeah. This is just so soft. And the halo on this one is just incredible. Look at that. I also loved the beautiful bell sleeves on this one. And it has another little lace repeat here. And then the fact that this shirt can be worn front and back. So in the front, you have 2 I-cords that wrap together. And you can have like a little higher collar with a little bow, and at the back it ends up just being like a straight back collar. Like it's reversible whichever way you want. You can either have the bow in the front or the bow moment in the back. You do need to layer. This is a layering piece, so definitely wear like a tank top or a shirt underneath it, but it is a beautiful, stunning knit. And yeah, Tofino Knit Company mohair is amazing. It's amazing. So now back on track with the months. September, because actually October, because September I spent it in Turkey, as you guys know, and I didn't finish any knits there. I brought knits, started knits, cast it on knits, and I gave away the knits that I had done in August. So the first one that I finished upon coming back is one that I cast it on right after coming back, and it is my Ranunculus. So this is what it looks like, and I love it. I love this one so much. I will make a sweater version of this. The Ranunculus was the surprise of the year for me. Shocker. The yoke is such a fun yoke to work up, and it looks like classic, but it looks fun, and everybody recognizes it. Everybody in the knitting world knows what it is. So it's kind of like a joke to have in my wardrobe. I say it's kind of like a joke because essentially anywhere I go, if someone's a knitter, they'll know it, and they can tell I'm a knitter. It's kind of like our business card, you know, like to spot each other. And that is what I love with this. I love the message, and I love the fact that everybody has one and we can recognize each other as knitters out in the world. And I also absolutely love it because you can knit this with any gauge, pretty much any size yarn, any needles, whatever, and someone's done it, so you can have like a reference to kind of what it's going to turn out to be, or it's very flexible to what you have in your yarn stash, and you can kind of do any modifications you want on it, and they all turn out beautiful. I ended up following someone else's modifications that they had made before me, and what they had done was a little bit longer of a sleeve. So I think it was like 1.5 inches or 2 inches here, and then I did a 3-stitch I-cord for the bind off, 4-stitch, and then I did a 4-stitch I-cord for the bind off. I did a 4-stitch I-cord for the bind off of the shirt as well, and then same for the other sleeve. Another modification is I went down a full needle size. So the yarn that I went with was Fibre Natura Papyrus, which is 78% cotton, 22% silk. I love this yarn so much. It was a pure joy to knit up. And I kind of like my little oatmeal shirt. It looks like oatmeal again in this color. I said it when I was casting it on, and I did get scared that it would look too much like oatmeal. But honestly, I've worn this a couple times now and I love it. It's a very fun shirt. So if I do this one again, I will probably knit a sweater version and a really nice thick, maybe a Aran or a worsted weight. I'll see if I can get that weight for this, like a very chunky, fluffy, maybe even add a mohair to add extra fluff. I don't know. I just really want a really big chunky version of this right here. I say this is my love of the year and my surprise of the year because I was actually really skeptical going into this knit simply because everybody does it. Everybody loves it. And I was just like, it can't be that great. Like, it's just like a regular sweater. Like, I just didn't really understand the hype. But now that I have one, I do. And that is what I mean by surprise. Like, it's not my most favorite knit of the year, but surprise-wise and like knitting joy, like how I felt while knitting it and having the finished knit, it surprised me, yeah, because I was very skeptical about it. So now we're kind of getting into a little bit of repetition with the Everything I Knit in December knit video, but the next one is my Snufkin Goes Fishing, and no, they're still not blocked. But this is what they look like. I'm not going to talk about these too much because they have their own beautiful dedicated video, and I talked about them in my December knits video last week. But yeah, this is them. They're knit in they're knit in Drops Fiesta in the forest green and the off-white because I didn't want it to be white, like a crisp white. I kind of wanted a more beige natural white, so that is that. It is beautiful colorwork socks knit in DK weight. These were the very first DK weight socks I knit, and they're from the 29 different patterns Moomin's sock pattern book. This is the book. I'm just forgetting the title right now. But yeah, this is what I mean. This and the Opal socks are the only two socks I finished all year. Next year I will knit more socks, 100%. We'll finish more socks. I think I casted on 4 different pairs of socks this year. 2 made it out. I don't know. I love knitting socks. I love wearing knit socks. The only reason I think I don't knit them as much or finish them is because there's less satisfaction to showing you guys finished socks. Maybe it's just me and the way I think of it, but and I want to finish more socks, but it's because it's more exciting to show you guys like a finished knit than socks. Hello?
Hello.
What are you doing in my house?
Run.
Get out of my house!
Oh, you didn't eat your cake?
Nope, but I'm waiting for you to leave. The camera's still rolling, so.
Okay. Just get these 2 chocolates and I'm out.
Okay. Whatever happens with the lighting, it'll be whatever it is, and I just, whatever. It's funny, I used to be so, like, anal about it, and, like, literally try to color correct everything, and right now I'm just like,
I'll be fine. People won't care.
Yeah.
Alright, back to it.
Okay. Ciao. Bye, Bella. So we have 3 more knits. I have 3 more knits for you guys. And the sun is being super, super temperamental. So again, I am really sorry. So the next knit is one that I actually gifted away and gave away. Is one that I knit for my mom's birthday this year. And it is the Mara Kerchief. And I knit this in 100% cashmere. It was a brushed cashmere yarn. I don't have the skein. If I do, I'll find it right here. But it was this super beautiful navy little cashmere yarn. I got it at the very first time I went to Knit City, and I just had one skein because it's cashmere. My mom always asks for cashmere knits, so I thought she deserved a little knit in this beautiful yarn and this beautiful color. I think that color would suit her really, really well, so hopefully she gets it soon because of Canada Post is being... So, will this... Hopefully she will have gotten it before this video comes out. Cross my fingers. Sinon, ben, bonne fête, maman. on est le 28 décembre. Her birthday was in November. Oh. But yeah, so that's what that was knit up. It is a beautiful lace pattern, and it is it a free pattern? And it is a beautiful pattern. It is a free pattern, so if you guys haven't checked it out, I highly recommend you do. The pattern is by Audrey Borrego. Yeah, Audrey Borrego. It is available in French and English. And it doesn't take up too much yarn. It takes up 240 to 400 meters. There's a couple different sizes you can knit up. I think I only had enough yarn for the small, so that's what I made. Then, so that was a new addition to the December knits, which I didn't put it in that video because I was sure she wouldn't have it by then. So let's see next week if she has it. Then, of course, I have my Cumulus tee. So this was the second part of the cone saga from the Elisabeth Blouse. This one, I, again, won't talk about it too much because it's been in the last 2 videos. It's my most recent finish knit, and it is a pattern by Petite Knit. I knit the small, or was it the extra small? I knit the extra small, or was it the small? So I knit the extra small, and I believe I did the same length that she had in the pattern description. I didn't make any modifications. I just followed the pattern according. If you guys haven't tried this pattern, it's a very simple raglan, beautiful construction. It's just on really small needles. It takes up 3mm needles. I think I actually knit this on 2.75 because at the time I didn't have 3mm needles. So I went a needle size smaller. I didn't mention that in the video. And it takes up about 1,000 to 1,500 meters. So it takes up a lot of yarn on very small needles. So it is like a labor of love. But honestly, I love it. And for the Elisabeth Blouse, I held 3 strands of the cone laced alpaca together. For this one, I held 2 strands because this one calls for a light fingering weight, and then the Elisabeth Blouse calls for a sport weight. So those were the only 2 differences, like material-wise, between these 2 shirts. Again, they're both patterns by Petite Knit, and I love patterns by Petite Knit. They're very simple, very easy to follow, and they just give you really nice, like, wearing. By buying them and knitting them, you kind of know what you're getting into. Her patterns are very well written. They're very beginner friendly, and yeah, you kind of just end up finishing your knit with something you'll actually wear and like. I have yet to buy a Petite Knit pattern where I was really disappointed with the overall result. If it wasn't for me like choosing wrong yarns, wrong colors, or stuff like that, that's usually what kind of throws me off from some of her patterns. It's like my choice, like what I chose to make it with. But yeah. Okay, and I have a little bit of a surprise for you because that wasn't the only knit that I finished this year. So the true actual finished, like, final knit of 2024 is, of course, my boyfriend's Sandnes Garn sweater. So this, I finished it literally last night. I stayed up knitting till like 11 p.m. to get this done for today. I originally wanted to film this video yesterday, but I was doing this collar decreases, and I was like, if I push myself, I could maybe finish it tonight and then give you guys a little bit of a surprise. So this is what the sweater looks like. I absolutely love it. Now, it is not washed, it is not blocked, and I still need to weave in all the ends. Hi, hello. So I made a small change on that sweater since the 28th. So I'm just gonna like wiggle myself in here. Hi, hello, happy new year. Today is the 31st of December. To talk a little bit more about this pattern, my boyfriend's sweater, because I made a small change to it that wasn't when I filmed on the 28th. So yeah, so the pattern is from Sandnes Garn. It is Norwegian Icon. I think this is the book 72. Can you see that? 72. And the pattern that I made, so this is the full sweater. This is the original design look feel vibe. I do not know what size this guy is wearing. I do not know. Yeah, it doesn't say what size their models are, which would be good to know actually for just comparison reasons. But yeah, it doesn't say. The original design calls for pure Gint, but I knit mine in double Sunday. This is what it looks like. I love it. You guys are very high. Can I just like, we're gonna have a little bit of camera movements, but yeah, so this is it. It's all finished and done. It does need to be washed and blocked, and I'm happy to recall, same for the Moomin socks, the Snufkin Goes Fishing. I should get the dye catchers today, so maybe I can wash and block these tomorrow. For the new year, for the first. This is gonna take a while to dry, but basically, yeah, this is my Norsho sweater. Oh, someone commented the proper name. I'm extremely sorry. Someone in my last video literally commented how to pronounce it, and I genuinely forget right now. I'm really, really sorry. So this is what it looks like, and I love it. My boyfriend loves it. He's tried it on. It fits him super, super well. And yeah, a nice washing and blocking would be great right now. In the book, the yarn alternatives are Alpaca, Smart Duo, or Merinule. And I don't know. First off, I couldn't find Merinule here. Duo is a cotton and merino like yarn together. Smart, what is Smart? I don't know what Smart is. And Alpaca. The original design for the sweater is knit with pure Gint, but it's a little bit too rough and itchy for my boyfriend, so I decided to go with an alternative. Now, this wasn't one of the alternatives listed, but it is still a DK weight yarn, and I went with Double Sunday, which is another Sandnes Garn yarn, and it is a merino wool. I don't think it's superwash. It's a non-superwash merino wool. And the both colors are in, I think the blue is the exact same blue that was used in the original pattern. The exact same like dye name, and the beige, I just went with a beige instead of a light gray because the original pattern calls for a light gray. So that's the color changes I made. Now, because I used Double Sunday, I don't know if this is just my tension being really, really tight or just Double Sunday. It's a little bit thinner or smaller than pure Gint. I ended up going up a needle size, so the pattern calls for 4 millimeters. I went with 4.5, but then I did use the 3.5 millimeters, the same size like that the pattern says, for the rib on the cuff, the bottom, and the sleeve. So it still has a like nice little taper to it. That one I left as is, but for the overall knit, I did go up 0.5 of a needle, and honestly, I like it. I don't think, I'm actually curious, had I gone down a needle size, what would have happened had I gone down a needle size, because this would have been so much more dense of a material. It is dense. So yeah, that's something to think about. Before we get to why I'm filming today and what the change is, I had a hard time. I wanted to talk about, so before I get into why we're filming this again today and what the changes that I made, I just want to talk about the pattern itself. So I had heard from other users that Sandnes Garn patterns are a little bit tricky to use because they are translated and the translation isn't, it's a hit or miss. They use different words and different terms and just word things differently. It kind of, when steps get a little bit complicated, you really, really have to think. So it's not the easiest. The whole pattern was fine till I needed to connect the arms and the body, because this is a bottom up knit. So you knit the full body till about the armpits, and then you knit one arm, knit the second arm. And I struggled with the connection for the armpit. It was just worded weirdly, so it made you bind off stitches on the body for the armpit, which is fine, and bind off stitches for the sleeve, which is fine because you're gonna connect those. And then it wanted you to pick up stitches, like connect the body and the arms together, but not the cast it off stitches, so that you would still have those. Basically, you kind of create like an afterthought heel, but it's an afterthought pit. Like you'll sew the two seams together that you bound it off, so that you end up having all your sleeves, like the leftover sleeves and body stitches, on one like in one circle to decrease the yoke. That all made sense to me, but it's just how to connect the pit and like how to connect the stitches right here before the pit bound off stitches. And it's just the wording that they use that it really confused me, because they started talking about insert marker. They insert marker around second stitch on each junction, marked stitch, work stitch over stitch these stitches further, begin round by a junction on the back. It had never talked about junctions before, so I assumed what I did was I took the first stitch from the body and the first stitch from the arm. Junction means put together, so I just knit those two together. I think that's what I did. See, that's the thing. I'm not entirely sure what I did, but in the end, whatever I did, I ended up with the correct stitch count for the body, like in the decreasing of the yoke. So I'm not entirely sure what I did. I think that's what I did though. I somehow knit two together and then kept, I think so, 2 stitches on each. Work the second marked stitch on each junction in darker gray. No, we don't. But yeah, anyways, so that was a little bit tricky, but it wasn't too bad. It just took a little bit of guessing and somehow it worked. Now, the tricky part of all this was actually the decreases right around the collar, because it makes you cast off stitches for the front, and then it makes you work a little bit more rows on the back, kind of doing like a backwards short row, which is fine, except it doesn't call it short rows and it doesn't give you short row instructions. It says to work decreases and knit two together, right? It was work diagram, repeat diagram, decrease. Yeah. So it says to work X amount of stitches each row, and then after you do those, it'll be like work this amount of decreases each row, work this amount of decreases each row, and then leave the rest on the neckband to then pick up the stitches at the front that you had casted off, and then work the rib. Here's the thing. At the same time of working the raglan decreases, you're also casting off stitches at the front edges to kind of get like the circle smaller, but like, yeah, basically it's kind of like a short row, but not. And underline at the same time, work the raglan decreases. Like, it's very specific. Do it every row and the raglan decreases at the same time. Okay, that's fine. The raglans are worked every other row, so I just kept working them every other row, and then did the decreases. I, after doing that, ended up with, I think it was 25 to 30 extra stitches in my collar. Weird, right? So I went back and I tried the exact same instructions that are listed here, but I decided to do them every second row and see if that worked, because if you do the decreases every second row, before you get to the correct stitch count, you will also be continuously working the raglan decreases, which is 8, because there's 4 raglans. That's 8 stitches decreased every time you do it. I ended up with the correct stitch count. But the pattern says every row. It doesn't say every second row. So essentially, yeah. So that was the trickiest part. I think at the collar, I had to undo it like twice. But because I was so focused on working the decreases and working on the collar, what ended up happening is I still did the texture. It's a little like chart for the little diagram here. And I had kept working it as I was doing the decreases, because it tells you to keep working the chart. And what ended up happening is here I had like 2 more of these. So I kept them going up to the collar. And when I was looking at the video of me holding up the sweater, I realized that looks a little off. It looks a little funny, but it is purely because I was so focused on getting the decreases right that I didn't think to look at the original image. He doesn't have it. Like, the last row is a straight full bar. It doesn't do like little white repeats on the sides. So I went back with, I left it as is. I didn't unravel anything. And what I did is I did a duplicate stitch over the whites that were there. And then I made sure to pass it where the white was passing so that after that I could go in the back and cut the white and just like unravel it from within. But because I did a duplicate stitch with the blue already, the stitches were still holding. So basically I just went in, the blue is already weaved in. I just need to weave in my white edges now that I ended up cutting. I did a duplicate stitch, but then fully removed the white so that it's not like a bulky finish there. And then you won't, like, as it stretches or it moves, you won't see the white like behind it underneath it, because I just thought that that wouldn't be nice. But essentially that is why I am filming this today. That is why I'm wiggling this little insert right here, because the sweater is finally done. I love it. It's beautiful. I still need to weave in all of the ends on the inside. That still needs to get done. But overall, knitting wise, this is done. Yeah. Also didn't even use up all the yarn. I think I used up all the white. So I originally had bought 3 skeins of white, and I think I bought 13 skeins of the navy. In my bag right here, I still have 1 full skein and this much already used. So that's like what, a skein and a half? So I can totally make something else with this leftover yarn. Maybe a little color work mitten would be really, really cute with this. I might actually. I did get a new mitten pattern, so I might actually make some lovely mittens with this leftover wool. A skein and a half should be enough, right? With another yarn? Okay, so that's kind of all I wanted to say for today. Happy New Year! So that kind of sums up everything that I've knit in 2024. Now that is, I've counted with the repeats. I didn't show the repeats because they're repeats, but along with those in the gifted items, I ended 2024 with 23 different knit items, I think. That's not counting the knit ornaments, that is true. And I think that that is a really good amount, considering 10 of those are knit garments for me. The 13 other are scarves, gifts, chickens, socks. They're not like shirts or skirts or sweaters. So I knit 10 items for myself, which I think completely aligns with the goals that I had set at the beginning of 2024, which was to kind of slow down and be more selective with what I knit for myself and make pieces that I know I'm gonna love and cherish, and pick pieces that have different elements that either I could learn something from, haven't really done that well before in, or just kind of further my knitting path, my knitting growth. And I think that I succeeded in that. That's almost like 1 garment knit a month, which is great. And I feel like that is a lot more refreshing than last year, where I finished the year with a bunch of different items. I don't even remember how many I had, but I remember finishing the year with a bunch of stuff that I didn't necessarily love, and I had just cast it on as spur of the moment knits. And yeah, I feel like this year I was a little bit more careful with what I knit and casted on, and I feel very happy with where I'm finishing my year. And that is not even counting all of the spinning that I did this year. Now, I didn't show you guys any of the spinning because I feel like this video would be really, really long, way too long. But if that is something you guys would be interested in, me going through everything that I've spun in a year, maybe I could make that a video. I wasn't planning on it because I feel like this channel, I don't know, I don't feel like the spinning is picking up as well as the knitting on this channel. Yeah, let me know what you guys think. I do plan on making a New Year's goal video that will come in the new year. But till then, thank you guys so much for joining me. I had a lot of fun filming this today, even though the sun was very temperamental and it's going away again. This will be a pain to edit. RIP future me. Wish me luck. And let me know in the comments section how many knits you maybe casted on this year, or if you learned a new technique or a new craft, a new tool. I'd be really curious. I hope you guys have a lovely, beautiful day. Thank you so much for stopping by, and I'll see you all later. Bye!